Women who call their SO daddy during sex. Why? I might be too late to this threat, but I was dating this girl and she would call me daddy over and over during sex. I didn't think much of it and was pretty indifferent to how it made me feel. But then our relationship carries on and I met her actual dad. And he and I shared a lot of physical qualities. I looked a great deal like him. So that made me suddenly rethink all the times she called me daddy while I was balls deep in her. My GF calls me daddy when talking to our puppy. Does that count? Restrict my airflow. Father figure. I've never understand the issue with this. It's a pet name. Ever called someone baby? Are you actually thinking about babies when you say that? Same way girls are thinking about their actual dads. I like calling her babe because of the pig. My ex told me to call him daddy. I obliged because he wanted it and at the time I didn't care too much for it. But I actually ended up liking it. It was more of a domination thing that I didn't know I had until I did it. But I was not thinking about me actual dad. Really, I'm nasty. My friend told me a story about her and her boyfriend doing the nasty and during it he asked her, who's your daddy? Are you not? She screamed her actual dad's name in the heat of the moment. One of the best stories I've ever heard. Darth Vader. Wait. Me too. It really turns him on. And I love his reaction. Dated a guy named Daniel. Relevant later. And I tried to spice it up by calling him daddy. He was not turned on and after he asked if I called him daddy and I joked it off and said no. Danny haha and yo, we didn't bang after that. Like others said. Using the term daddy isn't about visualizing my literal dad. Shudder. Comma rather. It's about emulating a power dynamic between a, typically older, stern but loving guy and a, typically younger, sometimes rebellious but ultimately obedient girl. People like these labels because they capture unique nuances about the dynamic. For example, the term daddy implies that the guy is a provider. Somebody who lovingly takes care of the girl. It also implies that the girl is relatively innocent. You don't get that specificity with, say, master and slave. Many people argue you. Doesn't using the term daddy make you think of your father? My counter is, no. I'm 20x years old. I haven't called my father daddy in like 2 decades. You ever hear one of those 50s songs where the guy calls his love interest mama? It's sort of like that. I asked my GF this once and she said it's because she wanted me to be the daddy of her children. I'm guessing this answer isn't universal. Edit. How this blew up. FTR. It's not a thing for her to call me that during sex. This was just the answer I got when I asked her. Most likely she knows it's a thing. And it was her rationalization. I said all the time that this was something I didn't get. There was a friend of mine who was by all accounts my type, but for some reason I was never that attracted to her. She was objectively pretty. But just wasn't clicking. For some reason. One day we were talking about this and I said, I think it's so weird. And she looked at me and said, you don't like it daddy? And my balls jumped and then I got it. Edit. This happened to me. I told a girl I thought it was weird. So she'd start saying it to me at the most randomest of times. And I just suddenly realized it was turning me on. Cause if you call him grandpa he's liable to smack you in the eye. Because it's weird to call your parents by their first names. My entire SZOL life. I've always thought this was gross and awkward and the opposite of SI. Then I had a baby with my husband. The word took on a whole new meaning and the idea of him being the actual father to my child suddenly made calling him daddy really SI and a total turn on. I still think it's weird. But it works. It's our kind of weird. I dated a Mexican girl. And she would call me papi. It's just power submission kink. It's not like you're literally pretending to have sex with your dad. That's weird. I was always pretty self-conscious about this kink until I let it slip to my boyfriend one time and he happened to be really into it. Don't knock it till ya try it. Edit. As a man, it was all good until I heard my daughter say the word for the first time, and then the MRS and me had an impromptu conference and decided it was off the menu. Because we're a lesbian couple and it's hilarious. Hi. Woman here. I've been very into calling a few of my past partners daddy. Specifically the ones I view as being more dominant in our relationship. For me it's the power thing. I'm a control freak normally. And I like being able to go full submissive in the bedroom. Calling him daddy is just another term like sir or master. And it has absolutely nothing to do with my actual father or any issues related to him. Daddy as a term of equal submission and respect carries more comforting connotations of trust as opposed to master. I think it's hot. And if my partner does, then hell yeah, I'll call him daddy. I like my girls calling me Goshujin-sama. My GF was groomed to be in PRN as a child. And she is kind of ed in the head from that ordeal. She is really into daddy dom little girl stuff. Sorry, that's pretty horrible, but that's the truth. Edit. Don't get the down votes. Don't know why you got downvoted. I totally get it. My wife is a WAP survivor. She also likes to be held down and tied up and to fight me. Everything we do is consensual and the word stop is absolutely respected. People don't get it, I guess. But I can tell it's something cathartic for her. She's doing these things on her terms and taking experience that was traumatic and making it a pleasure. I'm fine with it. As long as you respect her boundaries and everyone's on the same page, do whatever deviant kinky stuff floats your boat. It's a kink. I don't have daddy issues. I come from a relatively normal family. It's a part of BDSM. Whether people realize it or not. I'm submissive. And I prefer my dom to be a daddy dom. Daddy doms, at least the ones I have had, are kinda sweeter. More about gentle discipline than inflicting mass amounts of pain on submissives. Although that's just my personal experience. I love how judgmental everyone in here is. Quit acting like your search history isn't 50x times worse than a girl calling you daddy. How tall is Jesus? Daddy is so mainstream, if you're a real freak you call him Lord Farquaad. Have you ever given it a shot? I used to think it was weird and gross too. Then my girlfriend said it during sex. Hottest thing ever. Now I love it. Also, looking at some of your replies. You're cringy as hell, bud. Let people enjoy what they want. You enjoy what you want. You don't have to insinuate that people are peders because they do this. I have never had a woman do this for me. I understand the creepiness factor. But to be honest, I think I would like it. I view it as a figurative term. Not literal. The same way a woman might call you baby. Gay guy here. It's not about pretending my BF is my actual father, EWW. It's more a term of dominance. Like master or sir. Same way he calls me baby and obviously is not referring to me as though I'm an actual infant. Why the shouldn't they? It's hot. I thought it was weird till some Colombian chick picked me up when I was serving her drinks. She kept calling me papi and Lord almighty did I bite my tongue to stop myself from finishing right there and then. Never understood it. Still don't. But my penis understands and we're pretty tight, so I respect his decisions. Called my girlfriend mommy after she called me daddy and well, she laughed her ass off and SI time ended. If you'll stop after laughing, you're doing something wrong. I have daddy issues. That's what they are. We had kids together. We end up referring to each other as mommy and daddy most of the day with the kids around. And we'll affectionately refer to each other as mommy and daddy when they are not around. It's both comforting and a little arousing because this is something we made each other achieve together. He wouldn't be a daddy if I hadn't had his babies. That kind of thing. As for during sex, it just kinda melt over sometimes. We're extremely affectionate and playful together. I don't think we ever really say each other's actual names anymore. Because he likes it. We are in a 24/7 dominant submissive role. It's very much because of that. There's a power fantasy to it. What's it like having the relationship like that 24/7? As a man who your question is not directed, my GF called me daddy for the first time just this week and it was hot AF. We both call each other baby, but daddy unexpectedly turned me on. My SO likes it. I think it's kind of weird, but he seems to really enjoy it and I want to please him. As usual, half of these answers are just dudes saying whether they like it or not. I'm a man and I think it's weird. My ex tried to call me daddy. I immediately stopped and told her to never call me that again. Reason: my father used to beat me up when I was young. You should have sex with him and call him daddy. Boom. Fear gone. Also, you get to nut. I have a DDLG fetish. I have no daddy issues. It's just a thing. I'm on a list so you don't have to be. Here's the Urban Dictionary definition. It is a form of BDSM, where one person is a caregiver in the relationship, and one is more childlike, which is usually called a little. Although it is called daddy dom little girl, there are also mommies and little boys. The daddy figure loves and tends to their little, do hobbies together, and have some SI time. But in all honesty, DDLG doesn't have to be SZOL either. But it definitely can in many other times as well. Littles tend to like watching their favorite cartoons or movies, art, stuffies, and depending on how far you go, sometimes a sippy cup or a binky can be involved. DDLG is pretty much like a submissive and dominant relationship. DDLG is really fun. Just make sure that everything is safe, sane, and consensual. It's akin to roleplay. Just a power dynamic thing. It's a way of expressing you're the alpha. You're in charge. You boss me around and I have to obey you like a good girl. You punish me if I disobey or reward me if I'm good. That's not universal, but common. It's super hot, but obviously not for everyone. And OP should be less judgmental. We get it. You think it's weird. I've had a few partners who like to be called daddy, and it has absolutely zero to do with anyone's own father. I'm not calling them dad, which is what I call my real life father. Calling a man daddy may be a little odd to me if I actually called my father daddy, but I'm sure there are people who do both and it still has nothing to do with her father.